Hey guys, Brian from PhoneArena here with a pair of new phones from T-Mobile. The first here on the left is the Samsung Galaxy S2, and on the right we have the HTC Amaze 4G. Now both of these phones are actually extremely similar on the hardware side. They both run Qualcomm Snapdragon S3 processors, dual core at 1.5 gigahertz. They both have 16 gigs of internal memory. They both have a gig of RAM. They both have 8 megapixel cameras on the back, capable of shooting 1080p video at 30 frames per second. They both run on T-Mobile's 42 megabyte HSPA Plus network, so they're blazing fast on the internet. And they're both Android Gingerbread 2.3. The Galaxy S2 is 2.3.5, whereas the HTC is 2.3.4, but no real differences in those two. Both of them do have custom skins on top of them. None of these should be unfamiliar to you at this point. The Samsung has the TouchWiz interface here, and the HTC has the Sense interface that we know and love, and we've seen many, many times before. This is Sense 3.0 here, and this is TouchWiz 4.0. So, both the latest and the greatest from these manufacturers. In terms of overall performance, both of them are incredibly smooth. The Samsung did achieve higher benchmark results. It had about 3,300 or so on quadrant, whereas the HTC was clocking in at about 26 to 2,800. Although in real-world performance, you can see they're both incredibly smooth. We don't have any issues with either of them. So those numbers are just that, they're numbers, and the phones can be taken advantage, or the benchmarks can be taken advantage of a little bit with some software trickery, so take those with a grain of salt. In terms of size, you can see the HTC is much thicker here with a couple millimeter, almost 2.5 millimeters thicker than the Galaxy S2. And the HTC is a whole lot heavier as well. So HTC kind of comes at you very front and center with this device. It's nice, it's big, it's bright, it's heavy. Whereas Samsung has gone with the understated look. You have the real dark chrome trim here, but for the most part, the phone's very dark. That's really going to be a personal preference thing between the two of them. The Samsung, we kind of prefer the light, thin look, but some people like their phones to be a little bit heftier, a little bit sturdier. The Samsung does have the larger Super AMOLED Plus display. It's 4.5 inches and WVGA resolution. HTC has a slightly smaller screen at 4.3 inches. However, it is a Super LCD and it also has a QHD resolution. So a little bit higher resolution on a little bit smaller screen means a much better PPI on the HTC. As you can see here, for the most part, the screens are both very, very good. The Samsung does achieve a little bit better blacks, but the colors are a little oversaturated. You may like that, you may dislike that, so that's again going to come down to personal preference. And that's really what it boils down to on these phones. It's really personal preference. It's really what you like with the software. Really appreciate the HTC, how it really kind of skins everything. You have a lot of different things here in terms of what Samsung does to it, but it doesn't go nearly as deep as Sense does. Overall performance, they both feel great. They both feel lightning fast. You're not going to pick one or the other over performance. It's going to be what you like in terms of design and software. For our money, HTC has the better software, but overall we really like the Samsung with the smaller, sleeker display, smaller, sleeker design and the larger display with not real overall larger. Some of the other things, the camera on the HTC, they've got the zero leg shutter, which is really cool. We showed you that in our review. However, the focus doesn't always work all that well. You can see in a couple of our sample videos that the focus did not work like it should, even though the phone told us it worked. And the kind of the outskirts of the photos, it's a little bit blurry, even though the center is really focused in. The Samsung here did not perform quite as well overall. However, all around it did a little bit better because it was a lot more consistent. And the same thing can be said with the video. The HTC had some issues with focusing, whereas Samsung did a lot better with the constant focus and then as well as changing with depth of field, as you can see in our sample videos. Both of these phones are probably a great replacement for your point and shoot, so you only have to carry one device, although with our little bit better Panasonic FZ35. It outperformed both of them in low light performance and overall detail and things like that. So not quite there to replace your higher end cameras, but definitely the everyday pocket cameras. Like we said though, really all in all, it kind of comes down to personal preference with these. You can't go wrong with either of them. We kind of like the Samsung a little bit better if we were choosing, but you can make a lot of cases for the HTC. It really just depends on what you like in terms of design and in terms of the software. And we encourage you to go out and take a look at both of them, but both of them are great Best Buys.